nocked, and ready to rock.
For this segment, I want to talk about arrow spine because arrow spine is absolutely critical to how well your bow is going to perform. And regardless of how good of a shooter you are, if you do not pick the right arrow to match your bow exactly, then you're selling yourself short and you will not be able to group as well as you're actually shooting. So arrow spine, as a simple definition, is really how much this arrow bends or flexes. And they measure that at a fixed length, hanging a fixed amount of weight on the arrow shaft to determine how much it actually bends. Now the numbers that you really need to know in order to choose the right arrow shaft are going to be these. One, you have to know your exact peak weight on your bow. Not how much your bow can pull for peak weight, but what you're actually at, because only a few pounds can make a big difference at how your arrow shaft responds to the bow that you're shooting. So you need to know, I shoot exactly 67 pounds on my bow. You also need to know what your arrow length is. You measure the length from the end of the nock to the cut of that shaft, and you need to know that. Not necessarily your draw length or the length of your bow, you need to know the length of the actual shaft. From there, you need to know how much of point weight you're going to have in that arrow shaft. You need to know, do you like to shoot 100 grain broadhead or 125 or 150? Because those numbers are all going to factor into how this arrow flexes. The more weight you push on the back of the arrow shaft, the more the arrow is going to flex. The longer the arrow shaft, the more it'll flex. The shorter the arrow shaft, the stiffer it will be. The more weight you put on the ends, the more it will flex. So these are all numbers that are going to be critical to you. Now, one thing that you're going to need to do is learn what your arrow spine needs to be for your setup. And different manufacturers have arrow selection charts just like this. And these are going to be important. And unfortunately, the different arrow manufacturers do not all have the exact same spine numbers. So I can't tell you that a 300 spine for one brand is going to be a stiff arrow because in another brand, it's actually a weaker arrow. That's unfortunate for a consumer. However, you can go to people's websites or pick up the catalogs. And again, as long as you know those three numbers, your pulling weight, your arrow length, and your point weight, you're going to be able to look on that chart and it's going to put you right into a group size that's going to allow you to know what spine you need to match your bow.